Hello and welcome back to the Give and Go. I'm your co-host Reynoso here with my boy
Soltero. What's up, guys?
8 months ago, we sat at this table in a different venue, a different setting, a different studio.
Yeah.
And a very, very hot take was made. This was prior to the World Cup. This was when we were previewing the Premier League.
Yeah.
And we were talking about potential goal scorers and more specifically a major transfer that had happened, Erling Haaland achieving and reaching 30 goals in the Premier League, following what was your hot take at the time of Erling Haaland replacing the gap that Raheem Sterling and Gabriel Jesus would leave at Man City, and saying that he would bag easily over 30 goals this season.
There's a 30-goal gap that is missing when you lose Gabriel Jesus and Raheem Sterling, but they immediately replace it with a 30-goal monster in Erling Haaland. There is no doubt in my mind, none, that he's going to get minimum 30 goals just in the Prem. He's that good, and he has the tools around him to make it an even easier job for him. When you have De Bruyne feeding you, you're never going to be hungry. You're never going to be hungry, bro.
It was met by criticism. It was met by instant reactions from people who did not agree with you. Fast forward 8 months now, and we see the prophecy finally fulfilled with Erling Haaland reaching 30 goals in the Prem and still having like 10 fucking games to go. How do you feel?
I feel amazing, bro. I really do. And the key word there, easily. I said it. I don't know if I use that exact word, but I made sure that Erling Haaland would easily get 30 goals 8 months ago when I made that take. But to me, it was so obvious, bro. He was already an absolute monster at Dortmund. What he lacked, though, was just consistent feeding from his midfielders and wingers. That's all he lacked. Everything else, he had it down to near perfection at already such a young age. The only thing that was going to be the question was Manchester City going to kind of adapt to his style of play? And from the first game in the Premier League, it was very clear that Pep Guardiola wanted to utilize Erling Haaland to the max. And that's why he's already at 30 goals with like 8 games remaining? Maybe 9? I don't know. It's something like that. So he's definitely going to break the most recent record is like 34? Alan Shearer, I think, has the most goals, but that was also done in a 42-game season.
Yes.
Erling Haaland is on the trajectory to break the Premier League goal-scoring record in a single season in a 38-game season. And what would be crazy, bro? It's going to be his first fucking season here. Nuts.
Yeah, with in all competitions right now, he has amassed 46 goals, dude. 46. So on top of the 30 he scored in the Prem, he scored 15 combined with the Champions League, domestic cups, and any other small little tournaments around there. So that's crazy. He's already broken the record for most goals in all competitions by a Premier League player after he scored the 3rd goal in the Manchester City versus Bayern game this past Tuesday. So an insane run that he's on right now, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But because we're big on accountability, the Give and Go, we're big about talking about if you get a take right, if you get a take wrong, we want to let you know. We want to make sure that you receive the rewards of getting a good take, and you receive the punishment of doing a bad take. And you, of all people, know that.
Absolutely.
So what I would like to do here is talk to producer Rudd and see if we can do a screen share. I like to read the comments on that post where you said that Erling Haaland would reach 30 goals and see what people said at the time in response to your hot take.
That's crazy. This is crazy. I was not expecting this.
All right. You excited, bro? Here we go. Let's look at these comments. First and foremost, Dave Hughes says, one day these lads will get something right. One day.
That's funny, Dave.
I guess that day arrived, brother. I guess that day arrived. Hayden Jones, 172. He's getting max 20 goals. This isn't Bundesliga.
The thing is, that comment alone is why I show up to this podcast every week. Because people don't take context into account at all. If you don't play in the Prem, and for some reason, if you don't play in La Liga, I don't know why, because that league's on the decline right now, you pretty much get no respect.
Yeah.
Unless you're like doing something like Napoli, for example, and what they've been able to accomplish this season. If you're not a part of that little group, people just don't care.
Completely dismiss you.
They completely dismiss you. And they'll be like, they got good players, but we got to see them in the Prem. We got to see them in Barcelona, Real Madrid. But what people just don't do or just fail to do, dude, is they just don't analyze things as they are and take everything else into account. When you look at Haaland and what he was doing before Dortmund, he was scoring goals based off of his pure, brute physicality. Yeah. That can be done in any league when you have the body like Erling Haaland. Absolutely. And so people just look at Haaland, Dortmund, Bundesliga, especially just at the time 8 months ago, and they're like, there's no way. But there's so much more analysis that can be done, and people just don't do it.
Yeah, I do think it's a big miss when you do it in regards to Haaland, but I do get the side of like, look at a guy like Jadon Sancho, who ran the Bundesliga, putting up double-digit numbers in assists and goals, but then comes over to the Prem and he's non-existent.
The problem with that is, again, if you take context into account, though, when Manchester United got him, he was struggling at Dortmund for the last 6 months. He had lost that spark that he initially had in his first 2 seasons at Dortmund, and they got a out-of-form Sancho. So I think if you take that into account, I don't think you should be as surprised as to why Sancho's just non-existent in Manchester United, like you said. Now, if they had gotten him at his peak at Dortmund and he immediately failed at Man U, then I think that could be, you could say something like that. You look at the whole picture, though, Sancho was out of form when Man U got him, so I think that can get even a little hairy.
David Gildy says, the guy speaking has no football knowledge, LOL. Let's look at those replies real quick.
I get that a lot, though. So.
Hey, go ahead and get involved on that one again. FTB Talent says, say that again for me 2 days ago in response. Nilab Sinha says, first times you guys didn't make sense. 30 Prem goals is not easy. It takes the likes of Prime Ronaldo and Salah to do it. Haaland might have 25 to 28 overall goals with 18 and 19 in the Premier League. Hey, honestly, props to this guy for leaving his comment up because I would have deleted this shit as soon as I posted it, man. That's looking rough now, man. That's looking rough. Okay. Just one of the most liked comments on the post. Enzo Noah 9. 30 minimum is a bit much for someone's first season in the Premier League.
True, but that's what makes Erling Haaland already in the talks of being one of the greatest strikers ever in Europe and in the Premier League, which is a crazy statement to make. But it's becoming reality.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And this will be the last one I read. Shamanism says, this video is going to haunt you in the future. A lot of players from Dortmund are failures once they stepped into the Premier League.
Which is true. That actually is very true. Kagawa had a really bad stint at Manchester United. Sancho, you kind of just said. But I think Kagawa's actually in more form, a lot better form for me.
You can say Pulisic a little bit. Didn't end up producing the way that he was at Dortmund. But say a little bit.
It's the same thing, though, with Pulisic. He started getting benched in the last 6 months at Dortmund. It's the same thing. But
at the end of the day, he's a Dortmund player coming to the Prem, and he falls into the category of, I wouldn't say failure, but disappointment. I would go disappointed with Pulisic.
I'm going to have to disagree there because he was a bench player at the end of his Dortmund stint. Why would Chelsea go for a player like that? Obviously, you can hope that he would end up growing into himself at Chelsea, and he kind of did. He was a huge part in that Champions League run in which they actually won it. So failure, I'm going to have to disagree.
Yeah, failure, I don't go by. I'd go disappointed because even if you're Chelsea, you still buy a player with the hopes that they become even something bigger than what they are at the moment that you purchase them.
Yeah.
Especially when you're a club that big and you spend so much money on a player, that kind of has to be a playing factor of why a transfer happens. So the fact that he kind of has stayed at the same level he was at Dortmund, I consider that a disappointment because I kind of wished that when Chelsea acquired him, that he would become, he would ascend to an even higher level that I thought he was capable of. And maybe he will be in a better situation. Maybe Juventus.
Yeah. That is true. I also think it's tough, and the thing is, Pulisic might be doomed just for the rest of his career. He gets injured every season, and to truly grow, to become a star for any club, you can't get injured, bro. No. All of the best football players barely get injured. Pulisic gets injured every season, and that's going to really stunt his career. But he's still a hell of a footballer.
A lot of Dortmund players get injured, bro.
Yeah.
A lot, man.
Yeah.
Marco Reus.
Royce is literally like Pulisic, but like way better. Yeah. He's the exact same story. Like, if Royce just was always healthy, easily could have been like top 10 during his prime.
Gio Reyna.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Even Haaland when he was at Dortmund, was out for like a month every year.
Right, which is why I'm kind of surprised he hasn't really gotten a big injury this season. And that was my only if. That was my only but on if he could get 30 goals was the injury situation. But he's had a full bill of health this season, so I'm really happy with that.
I love it, man. I love it. So we had to look back on some of those comments to see what people were saying about that take. Good to celebrate it now, but I want to transition to an even bigger question about what this truly means, because let's look at it from a bigger perspective, man. Haaland has reached 46 goals in all competitions this season, having one of the best goal-scoring seasons we've seen in the history of the sport, especially in modern football. And the talks are starting to happen. The conversations are now starting to show up a little bit, where there's a little bit of a debate going on with who deserves the Ballon d'Or. Is Erling Haaland creating himself a very good case to go up against the one and only Messi, who just had a dream situation, had a dream outcome with winning the World Cup for the first time in his fucking career? Has Erling Haaland done enough to enter that conversation of being a potential nominee for the Ballon d'Or trophy?
I think politics will come into play for this one, and they're going to give it to Messi because he won the most prized trophy yet you can earn as a footballer, which is the World Cup. And it's just unfortunate that Haaland has his debut season in the Premier League the same year as the World Cup. So I think because of that, Messi's going to take it. Any other season, though, I think Haaland would take it. And if he's just able to continue this, do the same thing or close to the same thing next year, unless like Mbappe does the exact same thing, Haaland should finally get his Ballon d'Or.
You don't think there's a situation where Haaland scores at least one goal, and as he already has in the Bayern Munich matchup, but then a semifinal matchup, then in the final, wins the Champions League, comes back in the Prem, defeat Arsenal, win the Premier League as well? You don't think there's a situation there? There's a scenario where Haaland ends up bagging himself 2 major trophies and being a huge part of the offensive success of Manchester City during that time? I feel like I see a situation where potentially there's an argument to be made because of how badly Messi, quote unquote, failed in the Champions League this season.
But don't journalists and footballers alike prioritize narrative over feats like that?
For sure.
And I think since there was so much pressure on Messi in Argentina to win the whole fucking thing, I feel like if you ask any footballer right now, any top football journalist right now, they would say, yeah, I'm just going to vote Messi because of that.
Yeah.
No, even if Haaland is able to bag like 50, 55 goals at the end of the season, beat Arsenal, lift the Champions League trophy, just that narrative of Messi going through his entire career in the shadow of Diego Maradona, and now he's finally out of it.
Yeah.
And I think that narrative is a little bigger.
Yeah. I think I do agree with you there. The power of a story, man.
Yeah, exactly.
really goes a long way. But I've just been eyeing it because with Haaland, what he's been doing recently, I've been thinking like, fuck, this might actually have an impact on, maybe swaying a few votes. What would have been a unanimous victory for Messi, especially following that World Cup, I was thinking this is his. It's in the bag. His 8th Ballon d'Or. It's going to take something incredible to challenge Messi's throne when it comes to, him almost having that secure. And if Erling Haaland continues, I think there's going to be a discussion, bro. I think there's going to be a discussion. And if he had an equally good story behind what he's doing right now, then maybe he'd probably bag it himself. Maybe.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The thing about Haaland, and the reason why I made my prediction 8 months ago with such certainty, is that I see Haaland as a true disruptor in modern football. I see him as a top 1% of all professional footballers. I think the reason why people were so enraged by my comments and by any other person who agreed with me is because of that. Because for so long, we've had top world football be dominated by Messi and Ronaldo. And that will forever be in the hearts of those people who watch those guys play forever until the end of time. And to have a guy like Haaland come in while Messi and Ronaldo are still playing and do the things he's doing, just like Messi and Ronaldo did when they were 20, 21 years old, it can be a little jarring. It can be maybe a little disrespectful to, let's say, a Messi or Ronaldo believer. It's even more so harder to take in when Haaland's bagging in 30 goals.
Yeah.
And when he's going to get 40 in his debut season in the Premier League, or he's going to get close to that. That's ridiculous, man. And just like that one comment said, 30 in your first Premier League season, that's a little too much. That is a lot, bro. That's a lot. And the reason why, and I wanted to save this, bro. I've been saving this for 8 months. The reason why I knew Haaland would get 30 is because I see Erling Haaland as the soccer equivalent of LeBron James.
Okay.
And he's coming into the league at a really young age and already dominating it. When LeBron came into the league in the NBA in his rookie season with the Cavs, he took them all the way.
Yep.
Yes, he lost, but that's hasn't been done since, bro. And that's really, really tough to do in any sport for a really young player to immediately rise to the top, but for good reason. And a big discussion, when, especially even now, is LeBron or Kobe, right? And the reason why so many Kobe lovers, me included, were so against LeBron, especially during his prime, was because Kobe was about fight. Kobe was about passion. He was about flair. He would show up to the gym before you did at 5 a.m. And he'd be the last one out at fucking 10 p.m. But LeBron James comes in the league and he's just better than you. You know, he doesn't have that same type of mentality, maybe work rate rise, but talent-wise, want-wise, desire, he's got it and more. Haaland is the exact same thing because you compare him to Messi and Ronaldo, who had so much flair when they were younger, man. So much flair, and it's so easy to love them. They would just go at players, fly down those wings, and just people were like, holy shit, what is going on? Then you have a guy like Erling Haaland getting the same type of goals or the same amount of goals, but the way he's doing it is completely different to the way that Messi and Ronaldo did when they first hit the scene. Completely different, and I think people don't like it. Because at the end of the day, Haaland's just better than you. He's bigger than you. He's faster than you. And he's a better finisher than you. And I think just that sheer fact, without him being able to like dribble past 5 players and work for it, without him having to like visually show you why he's that good, that's why people don't like him. But what's crazy is that it doesn't matter because Haaland is one of the best finishers in the game already, and I only think he's going to get better. After Manchester City thrashed Leipzig in the Champions League second leg, round of 16, Jamie Carragher and Micah Richards had a little post-game interview with Haaland, and he was a little disappointed with himself because he said this. He was like, I had a good game today. Obviously, you know, bagging a lot of goals, but he's like, I can score more. And I believe it, bro.
Shit.
I think Haaland, like truly prime Haaland, can probably average 2 to 3 goals a game. And will that ever happen? That's tough because that goes beyond like what football should be. You know what I mean? But the way Haaland is built, his DNA, his genetics, and not only that, but his talent can make him probably the best finisher that we have ever seen. So yeah, you know, expect Haaland to just keep doing this. And, dude, I am so curious to see what that peak Haaland actually is. Is he going to get better? Is he just going to stay at 30, 40 goals a season, which is already insane? Dude, just seeing the trajectory of his career, especially since we saw the creation of it at Salzburg, it's going to be incredible to watch, bro. Yeah. Incredible.
Yeah. There's a lot to unpack there. There's a lot to unpack there, but I want to entertain it. Let's start with the Erling Haaland is LeBron James comparison. Let's start there. LeBron James, the thing that I admire so much about him is that from a young age, he was billed as potentially one of the greatest players of all time. One of the guys that would challenge the throne of Michael Jordan. And this was when he was like playing in high school, bro. They were broadcasting his games on ESPN as a high school player, man. We haven't seen that since, dude. It's ridiculous to think of the pressure that was being put on him when he was genuinely just a fucking kid. And the fact that he dealt with that pressure and proceeded to overachieve and proceeded to just continue that line of success for not just a regular amount of time, but unforeseen amount of time, with him now being in the league for 20 goddamn years, dominating every single year that he's been there and defying the odds and expectations that were made of him when he was so young. That in itself is huge because we've seen so many players in so many different sports be billed as the next great, the next one up, and then end up being pure disappointments, man. Mentally, it becomes too much for them. Talent-wise and technique-wise, they just don't end up having it the way that people thought they would. But LeBron James specifically stepped up and showed that he has that dog in him, man. Yeah. And he's capable of being in that conversation of the greatest of all time, and to many people, including myself, the greatest of all time. So then you mentioned Erling Haaland. and what Erling Haaland means in this comparison. It really got me thinking, man, because at first there's an immediate shock when I heard that comparison.
Yeah.
Not negatively, but just an immediate shock because it's a lot to put on a player.
A
It
lot.
really is.
No,
to give
yeah,
him
I
that
mean,
comparison. Man. We're
absolutely.
talking about a potential great here. But when I think about it, man, when I think about what I see with Erling Haaland that I saw with LeBron James, I mean, that pressure was put on Erling Haaland from a young age as well. He rose into the scene by shining out Salzburg. And once he did it there, once he bagged himself tons of goals there and had a really magical Champions League run contextually for them specifically, people were saying, well, okay, what's the next big team that this kid will go to? Can he do it outside of the Austrian league and a few Champions League matches? So what does he do? He goes over to Germany, into the Bundesliga, and he joins Borussia Dortmund, one of the biggest clubs in Germany, and proceeds to break countless records. Countless records, dude. Which is already ridiculous to do at such a young age. But for me, immediately, what I realized was his body type, his shape, his form, his approach to the game, it's inherently going to result in him breaking records and scoring these insane goals in any shape or fashion. And so I'm like, okay, what's next? And that's the same type of approach and mentality that's given to great players is what's next? What can they do? What else can we put in front of them? What obstacle can we give them that they eventually will fall short of? And we did that with Haaland, man. We did it with him at Dortmund when we said, what's next for you? Can you do it in the fucking Prem or in La Liga if you were to go to Real Madrid? He goes to the Premier League. He goes to Manchester City. He regularly plays Champions League matches. And once again, we're left just speechless. We're left just in awe of this kid's talent, his ability to score. We're actually talking about a dude here potentially breaking the Premier League goal scoring record at an age that's younger than us, bro.
Yeah.
At 22, I think is how old he is, or 23.
Yeah.
So fucking young and already on track to break some of the most concrete records that we thought would be set in stone for decades now all of a sudden are being shattered by this young Dragon Ball Z looking fucking kid, man.
Yeah.
Crazy to think, crazy to accept. And like you said, I think people are having trouble with it because when we saw the Messi and Ronaldo debate and saw them just reach incredible heights that we'd never seen in football's history, I think me, alongside a lot of other people, thought, oh, we won't see this for the next 30, 40 years, bro. And now we're actually having to entertain the conversation of Mbappe against Haaland because I do think it's really fucking close, man. I think it's really fucking close. And if we're being honest here, bro, Haaland might have a better start to his career than what Ronaldo did in his first, 4 years in the Prem.
Right.
And I don't think people are going to like hearing that.
No.
I don't think people, including myself, I don't think it feels right saying that. Because he's such a cult legend for what he achieved in the Premier League, winning a Ballon d'Or himself while he was there. But we got to have the conversation, man. We have to, because Haaland is scoring better than what Ronaldo did. He's scoring at the rate that Messi scored at when he was at his fucking prime, dude. Prime. And so at the end of the day, I'll entertain the fucking comparison, man. Because at the very least, he's earned it. He's earned it to at least be in the talk. Can he hold up this consistency? That's big. Can he continue to stay healthy? That's huge. Can he continue just at this rate? Because if he does, bro, this would be what it would take to jump into the conversation of the incredible and the great Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo.
Absolutely, bro. And LeBron James just broke the all-time scoring record in the NBA. If Erling Haaland is on the trajectory that he's already set for himself at this age, if he stays consistent, stays healthy for the next 12, 15 years, he will become the best Premier League scorer of all time. And he's going to break those exact same records, those exact same scoring records. He's already, I think, broken Ronaldo and Messi records as far as like fastest, 20 Champions League goals, something like that.
30.
Yeah, 30. Yeah. Absolutely ridiculous, bro. The trajectory he's put for himself, he's set for the stars, bro. He's set for it. All he has to do is just stay consistent, stay healthy, and I think he will break pretty much every record that he could.
Damn, dude, that's going to be insane to watch. That's going to be insane to watch because I wouldn't say Premier League because I do think there's a big part of him that wants to go to Real Madrid at some point in his career.
Right. Well, that's the thing. He had to stay in the Prem for 15 years.
Yeah, so maybe not Prem, but I do think he's in the conversation for all competitions. We talked about this question about a year ago when we asked, can Erling Haaland ever outscore Ronaldo, for example, and we said no because of the health issue, if he continues scoring at the rate that he's doing in the Premier League, I have no doubt he'll be able to do it in a declining La Liga, bro. Yeah, for sure.
Exactly. And I am so glad, and I didn't even think about this till now. I'm so thankful that Haaland went to Manchester City, to the Premier League. Right now, I think it is undoubtedly the best contained domestic league in the world. So there's now no question. There's no doubt that Haaland is in the best league competing against the best players. And the fact that he's already scoring at such a high rate, he could easily do it in any other league. And especially, bro, if he went to like a Madrid or a Barcelona in a declining league, dude, he would have so many goals, bro. So many goals. Like, again, the reason why he couldn't do it at Dortmund is because I think that Dortmund supporting cast just wasn't as good. But if you have like Vinicius Jr. on one flank, Valverde on the other, a midfielder like Modric, maybe Tchouaméni gets a little bit better, a little bit healthier in his prime, dude, he'd go off. He'd go absolutely off. Average 50 fucking goals in La Liga. And would do the exact same thing that Ronaldo and Messi did for a decade. So yeah, absolutely. But I am so glad that he's in the Premier League.
That's what I'm saying, though, man. He's doing this in the toughest league in the fucking world. He's doing it as well in the best league in the world, the Champions League. And you're telling me you're going to give it to Messi for 7 games?
Right.
He deserves to be in the conversation. I'm not saying he deserves to win. To be in the conversation. He deserves it, bro.
Yeah, he'll get second. He'll be runner up. That's how it is. That's how it works, bro. That's how it works.
Now that we're done sucking Erling Haaland's dick here.
Absolutely. And I'll gladly do it for another 20 minutes.
Real quickly, I want to talk about the Champions League matchup, Manchester City versus Bayern Munich. One of the games that this year that I've been most hype about in the club competition world, because these are two giants, bro. Giants set to face off against each other. The hype could not have been bigger. Potential finals matchup happening in the quarterfinals of the Champions League. First game set to kick off at the Etihad, and Manchester City coming off of what we had praised them as just an incredible football display in the Premier League these past couple of weeks. Jack Grealish making some incredible plays. Erling Haaland scoring his goals. De Bruyne getting involved. The whole team collectively. John Stones playing as a defensive midfielder now, making a transition there. The defense, Akanji, Ruben Diaz looking great. Versus a Bayern Munich team that has been really confusing in the headlines because of the coaching decisions that were made for them this past couple of weeks, with Tuchel coming in for Nagelsmann, losing out in the DFB Pokal quarterfinals as well, but still somehow leading the Bundesliga. I was like, man, the storylines are set. I'm ready. I'm excited to see a great fucking match. Manchester City annihilated the powerful Bayern Munich. 3-0 in a game which Bayern Munich barely had any meaningful shots on goal, man. In a game where Manchester City entire backline could have won the man of the match. A game where every single player from Manchester City, I'm talking Bernie Silva, tracking back, playing some incredible defense, looking like Andy Robertson at times, but then having the flair and ability to score a fucking header and make the game 2-0 at one point. Erling Haaland being a menace, sending in a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful assist to Bernardo Silva, and then getting himself involved with that third goal to just finish off this Bayern Munich side. So much so that after the game, reports were made that Sadio Mane punched Leroy Sané.
I saw.
Punched the fucker in his goddamn face, man.
Yeah.
Frustration happening in the locker room. Frustration happening on the sidelines. And a Bayern team ultimately getting exposed by probably one of the best Manchester City and Pep Guardiola sides that we have seen when it comes to just one-off games, man. To me, it's clear after this match, bro. It's clear. Manchester City is on track to win their first Champions League.
Yeah, for as jarring as the 3-0 result was at the end of the 90 minutes, it really didn't surprise me, though. If you watch Manchester City week in, week out, this just shouldn't surprise you, man. They're dominating every single game. And even if it is a little bit hairy in the Premier League, they always find a way. Always. And they do it in such style. And like you said, the commitment is unlike any other team that Pep Guardiola has ever had at his disposal. And this was kind of what I was getting at in our last podcast, man. This is why I do think that this is Pep Guardiola's Manchester City fully realized. we saw Leroy Sané on the other side, an ex-Manchester City player, but we saw how selfish he could be, man. And I know a lot of people actually praised him for at least pulling the trigger, being very offensive, not being afraid to go at Manchester City. But there were so many moments, man, where he should have just passed the ball.
So you're siding with Sadio Mane here.
Yes,
Okay.
and that's what that's another thing. There was a clear chance Sané on the left flank, going at Manchester City. It's like what, 2v2, maybe 2v3. Mane has a good cut run on the inside. Sané's on the outside flank. All he has to do is slip it to Mane. Sané sees him, says no thank you, takes 2 more touches and gets a decent shot, but a Mane pass chance would have been the better option. I feel like that definitely was a catalyst as to why Mane got a little pissed, because he's like, dude, I'm wide fucking open. That's your 5th fucking shot. Let's try something else, bro. Let's try something else. And for as good as Sané was in a Manchester City jersey, I don't think he had the work rate, the commitment that Jack Grealish, Bernardo Silva, Ilkay Gundogan, Riyad Mahrez, all these guys would die at this point for Manchester City. They would. Yeah. I don't think Sané would have when he was there. For as good as he was, I don't think he would have. And that right there, that ego, I think is why Bayern was so abysmal today, bro. They had no real chemistry going forward. None, bro. No real chemistry going forward. You add in the factor that Tuchel's on the sideline now, which is, I thought was so comical, bro. Tuchel has no stake in this game. He just joined the club a week and a half ago. What is he gonna? Was he gonna feel anything? Hell no. He just got there. He's still learning these players' names. He has no stake. So I thought it was funny that like you put a guy in such a high pressure situation, but he doesn't give a shit realistically. Yeah. Whereas like Nagelsmann at the very least would have been like, all right, I've been working.
He's been in the locker room every week for the past 40 fucking weeks this season, man.
Yes.
That's crazy.
Yes.
And then Tuchel just, I hate it, man. This Bayern greed and arrogance that has happened is so jarring to me, man, because I don't think it's right that they did that to Nagelsmann. I don't think it was good for the success of the team, and we're seeing it right now with them getting knocked out of 2 major competitions with the Domestic Cup and the Champions League back to back under Tuchel's management.
Yeah, and why wouldn't you, if you're Bayern, just put it on Nagelsmann's name?
Yeah.
Like, that would give you good reason to just sack him. But instead, Tuchel's now lost basically 2 competitions in a span of 14 days. And so what does that do for you? What was the idea of it all? I said this in the last podcast. Bayern Munich essentially didn't trust Nagelsmann. They looked at him right in the eye and they said, we don't trust you to beat Manchester City. Therefore, we're not even going to let you try. But how is that going to work, man? How is it ever going to work? So you take that, you take the players out on the pitch, the way they've been performing this season, 3-0, not even a remote surprise for me.
No, deserved fully. And you got Sadio Mane slashing some punches at his own teammates in the locker room.
That actually made me sad, bro, because you think of Mane just even like 2 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
So happy at Liverpool.
So happy. One of the happiest players. Honestly, a good guy in my opinion. I'm gonna back Mane any day of the week over a selfish, pretentious Leroy Sané, if you will, man. Regardless, Bayern Munich is heading back home next week, welcoming in this strong and powerful Manchester City side. And I want to say right now, folks, there is zilch percentage of chance that Bayern Munich makes it back into this game. I don't even want to hear anything about a comeback. I don't want to hear about anything regarding some magic attached to Bayern Munich, because to me, Manchester City will take care of business and they'll probably fucking win away from home and defeat Bayern at the Allianz Arena. But even if they don't, I just don't see Bayern doing enough to win this matchup or to come back and be able to go on this incredible run, man. Specifically this Bayern Munich team, which I think is low-key embarrassing that they are the top and best to offer out of Germany right now when you look at the local league and the standings.
If you take Manchester City, let's just say Madrid, do you have Manchester City going to the final? Like, do you?
Right. About a month ago, we sat
because
here
we
and
did
made
this.
predictions.
Yeah.
And I went Manchester City, and right now I'd still go Manchester City for sure.
Because I've been looking at a lot of like pundits' predictions because they're kind of doing the same thing. I'm amazed, truly, that even the British pundits themselves are actually writing off Manchester City. A lot of people going into this round had Bayern beating Manchester City.
Yeah, I saw that.
And then from there, they either had Bayern or Madrid going to the final. And whether it was Madrid City, they still would have picked Madrid going to the final. And I wonder if it's just like scars from last season that Madrid are a little untouchable in this tournament, that it'd be almost foolish to go against them. I understand it, but it's just like, dude, City's so good.
Yeah,
they're so good. Like, give them a fighter's chance at the very least, because they're playing top football, and I think they can beat anybody.
Yeah, I think people are overcompensating for what happened last year when essentially they were picked against multiple times. I mean, I remember I did that too.
Yeah,
and they were down plenty of times throughout the whole run that they were on, and they managed to fucking win it at the end of the day. So I do get it. I do think people are overcompensating for it.
Yeah.
But 1-1, man, I'm seeing Man City as the best team and the team destined to lift this trophy.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I mean, we've gotten some takes wrong when it comes to Champions League, man, because when you look at the other side,
the other side, bro,
we got it wrong so far. We've gotten it wrong.
They're both a little tight, especially the Monopoly games.
Yeah,
so
I won't flip on that. But where I will flip is over on Lisbon, man.
Yeah.
With Benfica welcoming in Inter Milan. I didn't watch this game because I was watching the Manchester City Bayern Munich, but I caught up on it with highlights. And the week prior, or a few days before, I saw that Benfica welcomed in FC Porto, their biggest rivals locally, or the biggest rivals within the Portuguese league. Yeah. A game that's so fired up, a game that's just a pure rivalry where there's true hatred towards the other side. And I saw Benfica falter at the knees of FC Porto, bro. FC Porto this year at home. And immediately the warning signs started flashing everywhere. I said, this is the result you're going to get prior to a Champions League matchup, probably the biggest Champions League matchup you've had in the last 10 years. This is the result you get going into it, when the opposite would have been so much more impactful. Imagine beating your biggest rival at home and going into this match with even more confidence than before. I wish I could have flipped my prediction when I saw that, man.
Yeah.
I wish.
Yeah.
Because
One of those,
bro. Because Inter Milan comes into Benfica, into Lisbon.
I know.
And they absolutely dominated, bro. They dominated. They played an incredible style of football that I haven't seen from Inter this year, honestly, at least at the league level, because they've been so disappointing within that context. But in Europe, in competitions, in these knockout rounds, their defense steps up. Players like Bastoni turn into fucking Roberto Carlos or Prime Maldini, man, sending some incredible crosses in, man. Some amazing curling balls in that are just full of pure danger, man. And that's how they managed to score. I believe the first goal was off of a Bastoni cross, and he almost got a second assist as well. But that whole game, Benfica could barely generate any chances. When they did have them, they fell short with like Gonzalo Ramos just shooting it straight at the keeper. And on the other side, Inter Milan clinical, got themselves a bit of a shady penalty to make it 2-0. But regardless, I do think it was deserved with how much they were dominating the match and how much control they had over it at the end of the day. So that's one that we got wrong so far. Yeah. And honestly, I don't know if I see them being able to come back in San Siro in Italy against this Inter Milan team that apparently is just up for the challenge in European competitions.
That sounds like such a difficult task, bro. There's no way it's going to happen. But I got 2 points for this. I think the first one, and this goes back to a point I have in general when it comes to the Champions League. I've always said, and I always will maintain, that no team outside of the top 5 leagues will ever even go to a final. And I think this is where it gets sticky for teams outside of the top 5, because you're just not ultimately tested week in, week out. And I do think that means something. It really does. And you could say, well, they were definitely tested in the Champions League group stage. And they were. You know, they had PSG and Juventus in their group, and they had to get out of that group. And they did so, I would say, in good style. But at a certain point, over a 9-10 month season, man, consistency is going to start wavering, right? It's why Benfica aren't always in the quarterfinals, because they just don't have that consistency. And for me, that source comes from the league that you play in. And I just think it's really, really tough. And I think finally we're seeing Benfica just fall short, or in my opinion, succumb to that inconsistency that plagues all teams outside of the top 5. And when you're playing against Premier League teams, even good Italian teams, Bundesliga teams, one of them's going to get you. One of them's going to get you. So Benfica have had a good season. Let's see what they can do in Italy. But
Let's see, though.
That'd be
still only 2 goals.
And that's true.
Get 1 goal and suddenly you're back in it, man.
Yeah, 2-2. Go to extra time. Maybe they win it on penalties, right? But let's see what they can do. It's not over, but it's going to be really tough. But for Inter Milan, my second point, Inter have been flirting with glory for a while, I'd say. For the last couple of years, when Antonio Conte first arrived at the club and won them a Scudetto, they've then gone on to do really well in the Europa League, still maintain good consistency within the Serie A, and now here they are, that much closer to a semi-final appearance. I just think this has kind of been coming for Inter, and what's a little frustrating for them is that they just also don't have finances to consistently bolster their squad every season, for example, like a Manchester City. And I think that's why they themselves are a little bit inconsistent, let's say, within Serie A, because, they lose Conte. They lost Lukaku for 7 months. That's just a little annoying. And before that, he was banging in 20, 25 goals. It was ridiculous, and now he's kind of back to it. And just the fact that they're not able to really go out into the market and get 2-3 new good players every season, I think has been a little tough on Inter. But as a core, their identity and the players that have stayed at that club, they've been able to build a really good competitive team. And, when you're playing against a team like Benfica, I think you can use that experience. You can use all of those past results and the talent that you have in the squad to get a good 2-0 win on the road. So, now that I think about it, probably should have flipped it to Inter at the time, but Benfica just such a cool story, and they were playing good football in Champions League that I was like, they can do it. But Inter, they said fuck no. And they really showed up in Lisbon, so props to them.
Yeah, and I don't mean to rile you up, man, but it might seem that we have an all San Siro matchup in the semifinal if Napoli loses out to AC Milan. AC Milan getting a stout 1-0 victory at home against Napoli, who did not have Victor Osimhen. That has to be noted. Did not have him today, and ended up falling at the knees of AC Milan, who honestly, at the end of the day, had a great game plan, managed to bag themselves a goal real quick into the match with Benacer scoring a goal off of a Rafael Leao assist. They go up 1-0, and the rest of the game, they kind of just bank on that solid midfield and defense to just pull them out and get that result, and they ended up doing it, man, despite Napoli having a few chances here and there, especially towards the end with Mike Maignan making an insane save on, I think it was a Di Lorenzo shot in like the 86th minute. Insane save, keeping them in it. AC Milan leave San Siro with a huge 1-0 victory over this magical Napoli side that ends up not having Anguissa for the next game, with a red card being assigned to him this match, with Victor Osimhen's health being up in the air for next week, and lastly, Kim Min-jae getting a yellow card in this match to knock him out of the next game. 3 key Napoli players potentially missing, at least 2 for sure, missing out on this huge matchup next week at home. Is Napoli's situation starting to become a little too dire? And are we actually going to see this magical Napoli run come to an end much earlier than we expected?
It'd be such an abrupt end, man. That's why I'm so personally bummed by this result, because the way Napoli have been playing, it's littered with goals every match that they play. And a 1-0 loss, frustrating, bro. But it's, I think, even more just personally frustrating that Osimhen's injured.
Yeah.
And that just sucks. Anytime you're not able to field your best 11 in such a high-pressure game, I think not only does the team miss out, but I think everybody misses out, bro. Yeah. Everybody, just from Napoli fans to the neutrals, because you're not seeing the best teams face each other. And in this situation, I think it's going to really hurt Napoli in that second leg, bro. Even with Osimhen back, you're going to miss the spine of your defense in Kim Min-jae. And then you're going to miss one of the best facilitators in Zambo Anguissa, man. Those are 2 huge misses. And honestly, like, Osimhen's appearance, if he is able to be healthy, might not be able to help out in the end. If Milan have the same sort of stout tactics that they're able to employ in this game, in this next game, it's just going to be another tight affair. And if they can, really exploit the defensive misses that Napoli will have and maybe get another goal, are the goals going to come from Napoli when the pressure is the highest it's been for this Napoli side? What I'm really frustrated about, though, bro, it just sucks that at the end of the day, like, Napoli's magic is just going to get stunted by a league rival in the quarterfinals.
Yeah.
Like, just the statement alone just sucks.
Yeah.
Because they're 20 points above them in the league table, and there's a chance that they get outdone by them in what has been Napoli's best Champions League run in several decades.
Yeah.
That's horrible, bro. And it's kind of what's scary, though, is that it was foreshadowed a little bit when they played each other in the league 2 weeks ago. That was scary too when they lost to Milan. What was interesting about that is I thought that Napoli would take that as a lesson, be able to be like, all right, guys, let's go at this team. We just played them. We know how to face them. We know how to attack them, and we know how to adapt to them now because we just played a full 90 with them. But I guess it didn't matter, man. I guess it just didn't matter at the end of the day. And is it just Napoli's magic coming to a bitter end? It just sucks because they've flown so high in the Champions League and in Italy. It just would be fairy tale for them to go at least all the way to the final. But not just fairy tale, it would have made sense. But my God, Milan might be Napoli's greatest antagonist if they're able to pull this off for like the next 20 years. A Napoli fan won't even be able to look at a Milano, bro. Oh, God.
Yeah, they would always have that over them, man.
Always.
Oh, God. And it's kind of the fact that so many Serie A teams that kind of just, they've given up on the league. I could see AC Milan fans still thinking they're kind of, above Napoli because if they get this massive result in the Champions League, I mean, think about it. If you're a Napoli fan, would you rather have the Scudetto or would you rather have a Champions League? Yeah. Would you rather have a trophy that you've already won twice in the past or a trophy that you've never been able to acquire? I think I'd rather have the Champions League at the end of the day, man.
Yeah.
And so to have it's still great to have the Scudetto, but to have that, but know that you lost in the Champions League to an AC Milan side that plays in your own fucking league, that's annoying, man. I wish it would have been like Benfica, or I wish it would have been a team outside of your country. So at the very least, you can just chalk it off as maybe they just played a different style that you weren't used to and they beat you.
Right.
But this is at home, brother. This is you're gonna run into people. The kids are going to school together, man. Families are mixed with AC Milan and Napoli fans, bro. We're going to see ripple effects happen off of this result, and that's why I'm not giving up on Napoli yet on this one.
Yeah,
I've given up on Benfica. I've given up on Bayern Munich. I'm not giving up on Napoli, man. 1-0 at the end of the day, when I was watching the game, I was like, that's probably the best result to get out of here outside of a 0-0 because Napoli just clearly wasn't at full strength. They won't be at full strength that next following game, but at the very least, they'll have the help of being at home.
Yeah.
And that matters in these Italian Champions League matches, man. That really does. That's a strong, strong crowd that is going to be excited about the prospect of maybe going to the semifinal. And the thing is, if they want to, then they got to score at least one goal. They got to show that they're deserving of a semifinal appearance. Napoli has been great about scoring goals this whole season. Get one goal, man, and you're suddenly literally tied.
Yeah.
And you have the advantage now going forward with you being at home and just needing another one to win the fucking tie. So I do think this possibility is much more real than any other team in the Champions League right now that's losing. So
agreed.
For that reason, man, I'm still going Napoli here despite the tough odds they're going to face without Kim Min-jae, Anguissa, and possibly Osimhen, bro.
That's tough. That's just tough to hear, but good luck to them. I'll be rooting for them too. I just have been so enamored with their style of play. But Milan, if they are able to pull this off and Inter win on the other side, we get an all Milan semifinal, which actually would be kind of dope.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, we don't lose too much here.
And just to check in on the other matchup that happened today, Real Madrid against Chelsea. The Madridistas once again defeated Chelsea 2-0 at the Santiago Bernabeu. And to me, there's not much to say here because it was just clear that they were by far the better team, way more organized, way more chemistry, and just that prowess that they have, that ability they have to show up on a European stage and just perform at the best of their abilities came into play again with so many players, bro. Benzema, Vinicius Jr., Valverde, the whole midfield, Kroos once again. I mean, I was watching the game and I was like, bro, I've seen this so many times. Kroos was getting subbed off and he was going out with applauses. And I was like, bro, I've seen this image so many times. So I just flipped on over to the AC Milan Napoli game for most of the second half because I found that to be the more intriguing match. But that was only because Real Madrid, in my opinion, was just so dominant over this Chelsea side that ultimately is one of the clearest examples of a team without an identity. These guys don't know what their role truly is, especially offensively. They don't know what to do when one of their wingers gets on the ball and has, some sort of attacking ability. The moment that questions are made of them, they don't know how to answer them, bro. Yeah. They don't know where to go. They don't know if they got to pass it off or if they should shoot. And then you add on top of that, I don't know if most of them have the skill to confidently finish, man. We're seeing a side, Joao Felix, that I think a lot of people haven't seen, and that he does struggle a lot in that final third to score, man. He really does. He hesitates a lot, man. Yeah. And it sucks because everything building up to that final third is incredible. His build-up play is really good for a man of his size. His skill level on the ball is immaculate. Yeah. But when it comes to shooting, when it comes to finishing, he's questionable at best, bro. And when you have a guy like him paired up alongside Raheem Sterling, who's a player that needs to be fed in order to score goals, or you have Kai Havertz, who has been confused ever since the day he arrived at Chelsea and has been riding the coattails of that Champions League goal he scored a couple years ago, you get a result that's very, very lackluster and disappointing on a stage this big. Throw in the coaching problems that they have, and what else is there to add, bro? Yeah. Chelsea is a goddamn mess right now. And honestly, a 2-0 result isn't as bad as it could have been, given that they were down a man for like a good 30, 40 minutes as well.
Right. I actually had Chelsea getting past this round.
You did.
Solely because they can scrap. They actually scrap very well. Where they do struggle, though, is actually in the final third. And I thought that they were going to be able to at least get one, maybe two, and just keep it tight at that point. Maybe go to extra time, maybe win on penalties, or maybe win by like one goal. And what's crazy is that it could have ended 1-0 if they had all 11 men out there. They do get to go back to Stamford Bridge. Yeah, but my forecast in counting on Chelsea to score, I really faltered in now. And that's an L for me there because I really did think that they could scrap for a goal. They actually, oddly enough, for as confused as they are, they can scrap in the midfield against a lot of teams. And even defensively, unfortunately, Koulibaly went off injured in this game, which is going to be a huge miss if he is just fully injured. They still can scrap. And they're able to do it in the Premier League. And Madrid, kind of like Bayern Munich, have had a weird season this year, at least in context to La Liga. So I figured that Chelsea were going to be able to kind of take advantage of that. So 2-0 at the end of the day, not terrible. But yeah, I think Madrid is now going to definitely just see this out, use their experience. But I don't think it'll be easy at Stamford Bridge. I don't think it's going to be easy, but I still think they'll get the result that they need.
Real quickly, since we're on the topic of Real Madrid, what would it mean for them to win the Champions League again? Let's say they do beat Manchester City and they go into a final high on confidence, knowing that they defeated Manchester City and are faced off against either AC Milan, Napoli, or Inter Milan, an Italian side. And let's say they win that matchup. What does another Champions League victory, bro, another one, mean for this Real Madrid team? Does it mean anything at this point? Or does it mean everything?
I like how you said that because honestly, I would just be kind of numb. Like personally, if Madrid were to lift it again, I probably would have no emotion. I got kind of close to that last year, Liverpool, Madrid. I've seen Madrid lift it so many times that for them to beat Liverpool in the way that they did in just kind of like a scrappy affair, 1-0 tight result, I was just like, they were the better team, they're that good. But kind of like you were saying with just seeing Kroos and seeing the images of Madrid succeeding, I've seen it so much that, I'm just used to it. So if it were to happen again, I'd say the same thing that I said last year. Like, they were the better team on the day. They have the legacy and the pedigree to beat any team in the Champions League specifically. So this result isn't surprising. But I will say this. If they beat Manchester City specifically, actually will be a little surprised. That would surprise me. Truly.
Like, it would just add on more to, like, the idea of Real Madrid in a European context is the greatest fucking club of all time.
All time, bro. Like, all time. I think even if they get thrashed by Manchester City 5-0. I think you can already say that by the runs that they've made this last decade, dude.
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah. They already are. Yeah.
I don't think we'll see like another team do what they did.
It's gonna take so much.
It would take so much. The consistency to facilitate in high pressure situations. You need that motivation every day that you're at the best club in the world.
Yeah.
I think that's why it works. You wear that blanco, you're in the Bernabeu, you practice, you're just with you have that pressure of not just Madridistas, not just Spain, but the pressure of an entire globe, bro.
Yeah.
Like as a kid, you just know inherently Madrid is top 2 club in the world.
Yeah.
And so if you're able to represent that can take you places.
And the bar that you have for yourself going into the season, every season, Real Madrid players know we have to, and not just that, we're probably favored to win the Champions League.
Yeah.
Like every season.
And I think there's no doubt either, which is crazy.
Yeah, like,
it's almost like it's a deep self-belief in every single Madrid player that we're going to make a deep run in the Champions League, boys, and we're going to do really well, and we're not going to be scared by the pressure when we face these situations because we've done it 6 other times in the last 10 years. We're fine. And so, yeah, you can definitely back Madrid in any tie. But I just, again, personally, if they beat City, I'm going to have to say something. I'm going to have to do we'll have to do a little special program here
that's
because
going to be a fucking banger of a result.
It's going to be,
happens.
oh my God.
That's going to be crazy.
I just hope it's tight at the end of the day because I feel like, again, I'm just going to keep doing this. I feel like Manchester City always have the potential to thrash any team.
Yeah.
Just on the day itself. But again, knowing Madrid, I think they will have just a better game plan than most opponents that City probably usually face.
Yeah.
And they're obviously definitely in a lot better position mentally than Bayern.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. It would just be crazy to me, even if they end up losing to Manchester City, that's what it would take to knock out a Real Madrid side in the Champions League. A team like Manchester City this year is what it would take. The level of quality to knock out the greatest club team of all time in this tournament, man.
Yeah.
Ridiculous, the standards that are set for this team. And I can't remember the last time they got knocked out outside of like when they lost to that powerful and mighty Ajax side.
Yeah.
Like when they lost like 4-1 at home or something. Like that's the last time I remember Real Madrid getting beat bad in like the last 10 years.
Yeah.
So that's going to be something to keep an eye on.
You're right, though, because if Madrid are able to pull this off, the 180 minutes of football played has to be immaculate.
Yeah.
Or disastrous from City, which would be incredibly rare given their consistency this season. So, yeah, the matchup itself is going to be one to see for sure.
CONCACAF Champions League.
CONCACAF Champions League.
Yeah.
Leon to the semis, baby.
Leon to the semis. Hey, Violet ending their beautiful run with a victory at home.
I'm telling you, man, and anytime you go to the Caribbean, it's tough to play out there, bro. It's tough.
I wish they had lost to Leon like 3-0.
I know.
So that when it was 2-0, when they were up 2-0 at home, that at least there would have been some more drama there, bro.
Yeah.
But your boy, Sherry, scoring a brace still,
Yeah.
showing his fucking... Bro, get him out of there.
I know,
Get him out of
no,
there.
honestly, bro, he could play like for a top team in Central America.
Yeah,
like
yeah, for
easily.
sure. Get
Play
him at
back,
Olympia,
like 20
bro.
Yeah, please, bro, please. That'd actually be dope, bro. They could do something with him, dude. His frame is so big, he can beat pretty much any defender in CONCACAF.
Yeah.
Like that's outside of like USA, Canada, Mexican national team.
Yeah.
He's that good, and then. But the boy that I mentioned last time, his left wing assist man, Roberto Baggio, bagging 2 assists over the 2 legs.
Jesus Christ.
He's
man.
pretty good, bro.
Jesus
like
Christ.
they should be, they should be playing elsewhere. But I guess it's just
They'll
tough
be
to
like
get out
Monaco, bro. They're gonna the following year they're gonna get all their best players and they're gonna be all over Central America. It's
be
the
dope.
CONCACAF Champions League version of that.
of there. Yeah.
But yes, Leon gets the victory there, going to the semis. That's huge, bro. And alongside them will be LAFC, who is just, man, playing some really good football, both domestically and in the Champions League, defeating the Vancouver Whitecaps, brushing them aside like they're some fucking feeble-ass team.
Stupid.
Easy victories back-to-back. Dennis Bouanga is easily the number 1 candidate for the MVP right now in the MLS, showing his prowess and his talent on the Champions League stage as well. Yeah. This LAFC team, man, they're looking great to me. They are looking great. Carlos Vela getting involved as well. This team looks amazing. And low-key, I think right now they're my favorite for the title.
Yeah, no, they're definitely playing the best football. And Dennis Bouanga, man, so clinical in front of goal. And also just so dynamic off of his first touch. His penetration's really, really effective. And just as per usual, the rest of the supporting cast around a player like Buanga and Carlos Vela, so solid, man. So well drilled, very talented just from an individual perspective. And so, yeah, ever since LAFC's introduction to the MLS, man, they've been a top team. And they went to a Champions League final, 2 years ago, I think? So maybe this is their year. They had that experience. Now they're back, and yeah, I could definitely see them. I think they definitely will go to the actually, do we know who they're playing?
We don't know the draw yet.
Oh, okay,
we do. Yeah.
If they don't play Leon, just because I have a personal stake in that, I do think they'll easily go to the final.
Okay. Yeah, and on the other matchups, they're yet to happen, but we have one happening tonight. At the time of shooting is Atlas against Philadelphia. Philadelphia is up 1-0 right now, but Atlas will be welcoming them into the Estadio Jalisco tonight.
Yeah.
Massive, massive game. And on the other side, we have Tigres getting a 1-0 victory over Montagua away from home. Tigres will be playing the second leg at home tomorrow. Let's assume this. Let's say that the teams that are winning right now make it through. So Philadelphia goes in to represent MLS as well as LAFC. And then you have Tigres and Leon go into the semifinal. Assuming those four go through, how would you rank those teams 1 to 4 going into the semifinals?
That's such a fun question because I think it's actually kind of tough. Let's just assume LAFC are the best team because they just thrashed Vancouver 6-0.
I put them 1.
Yeah, I put them 1. So in a 2, I'm actually going to go with Leon. They are having the statistically better clausura right now over Tigres in Liga MX. And under Larcamón, I think they've been able to really organize themselves, I think especially defensively, but then still utilize their offensive players pretty well with Diorio and Davila having a really good season this year. And then you still have players like Joel Campbell in rotation, whether it's in a starting position or off the bench, to really help this offense. So as a whole, I think Leon are the second best team. Third, this is actually tough, man. I'm going to go Philadelphia because they were able to prove last year in the MLS final that they can go toe-to-toe with the best team in LAFC. It went, all the way to extra... Yeah, they were winning and went all the way to extra time. And it took a last-breath header from Gareth Bale to seal the win for LAFC in LA. What a crazy game it was, but Philadelphia were literally able to go toe-to-toe. So I'm going to go Philly as third, and I'm going to go Tigres as fourth, a still really solid side with players like Gorriarán finding their form. Of course, you still have André Pierre Gignac. And then you have interesting players like Diego Lainez, who's trying to rediscover his career. El Diente Lopez is still trying to find himself over the last couple of years with Tigres, but still can be lethal. So I think Tigres still have weapons that can hurt pretty much anybody. So this might be the tightest Final Four that we've probably ever seen in CONCACAF Champions League, bro. And I actually do mean that because so often we'll see either an MLS side or a Liga MX side get to the semifinals, but be doing really poor in their personal league. Because just the volatility of consistency when it comes to Liga MX teams from one semester to the other or from season to season MLS, bro, it wavers like crazy, man. You'll finish 1 year second place in Mexico. The next season, you'll be in fucking 12th. Like, it happens a lot. Literally, take Atlas, for example, bro. Mm-hmm. They did really poorly last Apertura, but they have a chance to go to the semifinals of the CONCACAF Champions League. So, yeah, this Final Four is actually pretty intriguing.
Yeah, I like that. I'm going to rank mine here. I'm going to say, for one, I put LAFC for sure. But then I have a 2A and 2B because I think it's that tight. I'm going 2A Tigres, 2B Leon. When we talk about Tigres, I think the fact that they have such big name players and the fact that they have been at this stage before. Yeah. They do have players with experience in this level, whereas Leon honestly don't. They don't, but they are being managed very well right now, and they are in a higher position right now in the league table. So that's why I put them that close with 2A and 2B. Sure. But I kind of see Tigres as a monster waiting to be awakened because I feel like they haven't fully realized their potential. They haven't fully realized the talent that they have. I mean, bro, they still have Nicolas Ibanez up top as well, who they just acquired from Pachuca, the title-winning striker, now joining Tigres. They still have some really good players that are just waiting to flourish. And given that they have that experience paired up with that talent, I'm going to put them a little higher than Leon. But then I do put Philadelphia in fourth. They hosted a mediocre Atlas side so far this season at home, man. And they needed a red card to just kind of get into that game offensively and ultimately scoring a goal to win the game. So to me, they didn't impress the way that I hoped they would. Whereas given that they were so good last season in the MLS specifically, I thought they would honestly kind of trashed this class side.
Yeah,
but it
that's
got
true.
way tighter than what I expected, and they're set to play they're set to play again tonight. So who knows if they make it through? But for me, they're the fourth best team right now, and that's how I would rank all four. But I do have LAFC as a winner, and ideally, I would love a Tigres LAFC final. But hey, I'd be completely down for any sort of matchup here, bro.
Yeah.
Think Leon Philadelphia or Leon LAFC. Any of these matchups, like you said, is so tight now that it's going to be so fun regardless. And if Atlas pulls out a comeback tonight,
Right.
or if Montagua somehow gets
Put
a
him
victory
in.
against Tigres, put them in, bro.
Yeah.
This has been a really great CONCACAF Champions League campaign so far. And I just hope we continue to see this level of entertainment because the quality is slowly getting higher between both leagues. And the fact that it's so tight between them just makes it for an incredible matchup right now. In comparison to like Europe, where, you know, the Premier League is starting to build a gap between them and everyone else. Over here in CONCACAF, man, it's fucking tight.
We got two top-tier leagues from a CONCACAF perspective just going at it. So, yeah, once we get to these stages, man, CONCACAF Champions League gets so entertaining because of how tight it is.
Yes. What team do you think is best set up for the future as of right now? If we're talking 5 to 10 years from now, what team out of the big clubs, you could say, do you think is best set up for the future? You got prospects like Arsenal, who is on track to potentially win the Premier League with one of the youngest squads of all time. You have a Barcelona squad who has Gavi and Pedri pinned in that midfield for them for a long time. Real Madrid with Camavinga, Valverde, Vinicius Jr. Man City with Erling Haaland. PSG with Vitinha, Mbappe, and Unai Emery or whatever that kid's name is. Who has the best situation going forward in world football?
Futures are tough. Futures like this are really tough because look at Arsenal, for example, who are currently, and this could get a little hairy, but are currently leading the Premier League. A lot of the players that are playing top-level football right now have been here for a while. You know, you think about Granit Xhaka, think about Partey, who's been there for a couple of years. Then you add in the idea of like Bukayo Saka, who's been there for a couple years now. Yes, they've been able to build around that, for example, like getting Odegaard, getting Gabriel Jesus, getting Saliba at the back, I think has really helped too. But would you have predicted that core of players that have been here for 4 years would flourish the way they have this season?
Not last year.
No. Not even a year ago. The same fucking players, I thought that they were building to something, but not what they've built already. So the futures are crazy if we're going even 2 years out, bro. Like that? So, yeah, I mean, this could get interesting, but I like the question because you can definitely have fun with it. What's crazy is that if you look at Chelsea, all you see is potential. You don't see anything else.
Yes.
You don't see concrete detail. You don't even see success currently, but you do see a lot of potential. If you can figure out how to maximize Joao Felix's output, you have a really creative and entertaining player. You were saying earlier how Felix is so good in every facet of the game except finishing. When he was at Atletico, bro, I was just constantly begging him to just basically be a midfielder. I really do think that Felix's best position is probably just in the creative midfield, and he needs to stop there. Because the moment that he's in a high-pressure final third situation, he's not that good one-on-one. He's very good in open space in the midfield, and his touches are tight. And he has the right idea when he's trying to find players and he's trying to build a play.
Sounds like Griezmann, bro.
Right. The difference is that Griezmann's pretty fire up front.
Yeah,
That's the only difference. And the thing is, I understand why Simeone uses Felix as a forward because, I mean, Felix himself advertises his style of play as a forward. You know, he was banging in goals for Benfica for that one season. And he has a striker's mentality, but he doesn't have a striker's finish, bro. He just doesn't have it. Not at the highest level against La Liga defense or against Premier League defense. Not week in, week out. But his touches are really good. He's a good dribbler in space. I think he'd be fire as a creative midfielder. I really do. For a coach to be able to tell him that and for Felix to be able to transition like that, it's going to take a lot. But there's so much potential there either way. And then you have players like Mikhailo Mudryk, right, who has all the potential in the world. Whether he actually figures it out or not, I have no idea. But again, what if in 2 years Felix just finds himself. Mudryk understands how to just go one-on-one effectively and get good assists and get a good goal-scoring ratio going for himself. What if Sterling becomes a really good veteran presence for this team? Kai Havertz finally discovers what it means to be a good forward in the Premier League. There's so much potential for this Premier League side. You still have Kalidou Koulibaly at the back if he's fully healthy and fully convinced by a good manager to lead a back line. You get another good young defender beside him. All of a sudden, you have a really good center-back pair. If you can maybe figure out how to use Cucurella in the right situation, whether maybe not use him as like a left center-back, maybe don't use him as a left wing-back, I don't know, just figure it out. Cucurella's got good technique, maybe a little low defensive IQ, and maybe that's where you need to fix it. But there's so much potential throughout this entire squad. I could see Chelsea being very successful in 2 to 3 years, but I could also see them just failing like crazy. That's the thing about futures, bro.
For me, it's so tight between Arsenal and Barcelona. I think Arsenal, given the fact that they're proving that they can be a title-winning squad with Martinelli, Bukayo Saka, Gabriel Jesus, Martin Odegaard. I think those are 4 players right now that are spearheading their offensive line, and they're all like under 25 years old, which is just crazy. That means that for the next 5 to 10 years, if they can just band together and commit to the Arsenal project, Arsenal's got it figured out already, and that's huge. Barcelona, on the other hand, I think just the fact that they have one of the best youngsters in the world with Pedri and also Gavi alongside him, that's already secure for them. That's already proven for them for the next 10 years. They're always going to have that as an option. And that's a big position to have figured out from an early point on. That midfield pairing is going to be huge for them. For me, it's between Arsenal and Barcelona for that title.
Yeah. Talking about Barcelona, there's actually rumors going around that Chelsea's going to get Gavi in the transfer window.
Gavi might go, man.
Yeah. And it begs a bigger question. Do Barcelona really have the financial stability to be a top club?
Ooh.
And I think the answer right now is no. La Liga is fully against them for the way that they've held and maintained their finances. But beyond that, even like Europe just isn't okay with this anymore. The way that Barcelona goes through their financial fair play, they just don't bookkeep the right way, essentially. And I do think that's going to stunt them, bro. It's the reason why Messi, the greatest player of all time, was forced to leave his boyhood club in Europe. That's nuts. Barcelona didn't have the finances just to keep him, even on a low-level type of salary or a contract, just because they couldn't figure out a way to make these salaries work. That's pathetic.
Yeah.
And the fact that they tried to sign Gavi on a big contract, did actually sign him, but then we're told that they had to undo the contract because it wasn't legal. Gavi lost his number, bro. He lost his number. He had to go back to being a youth player and wear number 62 or whatever the fuck he wears. And that's what Barcelona make their players go through.
Yeah.
Do you remember Frankie's whole dilemma last year where he was this close to going to Manchester United? Not because Man U really wanted him and not because Barcelona wanted to let him go, but because they needed salary space. Stupid, bro. Barcelona ain't it. Fuck them. They're not it, dude.
Hey, Gavi would look good in a Liverpool jersey, bro.
That would be dope.
Good in a Liverpool jersey. Bring him over here, bro. He's got the physicality for the Prem. Yeah. Get him over here, man.
Did you hear that? So apparently Liverpool were going for Jude Bellingham.
Oh, dude.
But they've apparently pulled out.
Dude, can I react to that?
Yeah.
I'll make the title of the video, Reynoso reacts to Bellingham news. Shocking, bro. But at the same time, it was, for people who didn't see the news, it was confirmed by multiple reliable Liverpool journalists that the pursuit for Bellingham will essentially come short, will essentially end here with Liverpool saying that they'd rather have multiple alternative and multiple options for the midfield, say 3 or 4 different options, instead of putting all that money on one player. And this has yielded a lot of interesting reactions across the Liverpool fan base. A lot of people thinking that this is a guy that you invest in for 10, 15 years. You pay the big salary now and you just go for it, especially given the fact that we put in so much money into Darwin Nunez and Cody Gakpo. We do have the funds for it, bro. So why not go for it?
Why not?
And other people saying that maybe this is the right approach because We do need more than one fix in that midfield. We do need more than one player. And if we could get multiple options, say, for example, Varela, for example, a player that's more a level below what Bellingham is, but still very, very reliable. Yeah. Mason Mount, for example, might be more smart to do that in the long haul versus just going all in on one player. And I'm honestly in the fucking middle, man. I'm in the middle because I was truly disappointed by the fact that Bellingham approach ended, because despite us having this abysmal season, something that has carried me throughout was just knowing that Liverpool is genuinely interested in going for Jude. And Jude himself has shown interest in return. And so it just kind of seemed like he was one of those players that just had the stars written out for him. It just said Liverpool up in the sky. And he would just look at it every night and know that despite us having this terrible midfield, he'd be the solution. He'd be the midfield savior, the Steven Gerrard heir, if you will. And to have that all just come to an end because we're just too scared to go for it, that hurts, bro. That hurts. And ultimately, I think it's the wrong decision because he's a generational talent in that position. This podcast knows that when it comes to players under the age of 20 years old, I think Bellingham is the best. Yeah. And so for me as a fan, would have been the perfect fit for what we need. I'm just skeptical because I know that we need more than one replacement, but I also want the one guy that I know for sure will be an incredible generational talent. So I'm in the middle, man. I'm in the middle. We need 3 fucking midfielders, but if we could get one of them to be Jude Bellingham, the other 2 to be Class, Moises Caicedo, for example, or McAllister, if you will, that would be incredible. That'd be the solution right there. And I feel like giving up on Bellingham right off the bat just puts us in a really, really weird spot.
Yeah. No, wow. Great fucking take. Great opinions. What really rubs me the wrong way about Liverpool stopping conversations with Jude Bellingham is that in turn, Bellingham will then go to their rival in Manchester City or maybe somehow Chelsea. You know what I mean?
Real Madrid.
Right. Maybe Real Madrid. But I do think that Bellingham's going to go to the Premier League. Yeah. And if Liverpool don't get him, then that means he's going to go to one of their rivals. And it's just going to double down on the damage if Bellingham ends up being a fucking star in the Prem, bro.
Yeah.
And there's a really good chance because he's an exceptional midfielder. I feel like it would take a lot for him to just outright fail in any league. And if Liverpool don't get him and they see him week in, week out perform for another Premier League team, it'd just be like, that is a waste.
Yeah.
Like, regardless of the money that you have to spend on a player like Bellingham, it's a waste to not get him if he goes to your direct rival. That's what I don't like about it. And if they don't get as good replacements, again, as you're saying, let's say instead of just one good player, they get 3 solid players. What if they all turn out to just be okay, man? Yeah. Like, I mean, for example, look at Keita. Yeah. Keita was a really good player at Leipzig, but he's been plagued by injuries, and he will always be plagued by injuries for the rest of his life, bro. And that didn't work out. Yeah. Like, not only did it not work out, he's not playable. It's that bad. And if you get other players like Keita, who, by the way, was in his prime when they got him, you're done for. But Bellingham has proved his worth. He's proved that he can play in the best of situations with a really good Dortmund team against really good opponents in the Bundesliga, in the Champions League. He's proved that he can play. So Liverpool should go for him. And I do think it's disappointing for me that they're just not even going to consider it anymore.
So disappointing. I really hope that they can, I don't know, if I got to send like a petition, if I got to donate, if I got to send a Venmo to someone, we can maybe as fans all band together and send Liverpool some money, man, because this has to be done, bro. It has to be done. If we see him in a fucking Man City jersey or a Chelsea jersey or any other squad in the Prem, because being that he is English, I do see him in the Prem. You're right about that. If we see him in any other team, man, that's going to hurt every single time we see him play, bro. It's going to fucking hurt. And I'm honestly just, FSG themselves, I'm very, very critical of, because I think they might have gotten lucky with how well a lot of their signings went these past few years. And now we're starting to see the true colors of this management and how their unwillingness to take a risk and truly go for it ends up plaguing them and ends up resulting in Liverpool having these really, really disappointing seasons.
Yeah. You know what's interesting is I wonder if that the Liverpool executives are a little scarred by the Darwin Nunez signing, man. Because for me, he's been a bust this season, bro. And I'm going to go ahead and say it. He doesn't even start anymore. He's fully healthy. When he does play and he gets an opportunity, I'm going to say the majority of the time, he doesn't finish them. And that's the only reason why he's on the pitch. I think this season specifically, Nunez has proved that he has a lot of work to do. Just personally, how to figure out space, how to utilize his runs more effectively, and most importantly, how to finish in a really tough league. Because I don't think he can do any of those things. I think he has the physicality. He has the athleticism. He has the right idea, right? The idea of that he's always on that back line, always looking for a really good and effective run. But I just do think he falters pretty much in every way when he does get the opportunity to go forward, whether it's on the ball, in the build-up play, or in front of goal. And this past week when they played Arsenal, which was a crazy game, by the way, it was even more jarring for me personally when Bobby Firmino scored. Because it made me realize how fucking good Roberto Firmino was in his prime for Liverpool.
Oh, yeah, dude. Yeah.
And miles ahead of Darwin. Miles.
Yeah. Him and Sadio Mane, just the role that they played for this Liverpool squad, they were the offensive identity of this team outside of Mo Salah. And given that two of them, well, Sadio Mane isn't at the team anymore, and Roberto Firmino doesn't get the minutes that he used to and isn't at the level that he used to be at,
right.
You see the ripple effects of that, man. Yeah. This season specifically, too.
Yeah. And my question to you is then...
Oh, what's wrong?
Nunez, bro, he's not good.
I'm not there yet. I'm not there. I'm going to defend my boy.
You see the potential.
I see potential, and I still see a lot of... I don't think he's been as wasteful as you're presenting him to be. I don't. Still with about 15 goals, I think, within all competitions. That's a rough estimate. He hasn't really had a string of games, which granted you are right about, where he started consistently. I think Klopp is hesitant to give him that because there's been games where, yes, he gets himself into great positions. Great at making runs, great at being in that spot, but his finishing is very questionable at times. I will say that for sure. But I see potential. I see a very raw product, which is what we advertised it as when he got signed from Benfica. We said both together that he is very, very raw. Very raw.
Yes.
He had these incredible numbers in Portugal. He thrived in that league, and he would be tougher over here in England, and he's a very raw product. And so I feel like we're just seeing the effects of that. I see that he's at the very least earned himself the right to have a couple more years to continue trying, because given that he's finished enough opportunities to at least yield himself a somewhat respectable tag alongside his name, I'm not going to go as far as you have. And I think if he has another season like this, then I start getting very worried. And then I start being very, very harsh on him. But not yet. I'm not there yet, especially with how much we spent and the number of highlights that we have seen from him, man. Showing up and stepping up big in that Real Madrid game when we were up 2-0 in the 20th minute against them, and then the defense went to shit, right? Not much of that was on his fault. I do think there's been moments. There's been moments against top teams where he has shown up and shown that potential. He just has to do it more consistently. And if he can do that another season, if he can show us one season from now that he is capable of that, then I do think it would end up being worth it. But so far, yes, I do think the point you made about the board and how they're seeing this transfer so far, I am aligned with that. They're getting a little scared. Yeah. They're getting a little scared, and they're just not used to signing a player and not seeing him pop the fuck off as they have with every other single player that they had with Van Dijk, Thiago, Mo Salah, Fabinho, Alisson, having incredible seasons their first year with Liverpool. Yeah. Nunez is having a little bit of trouble, and now they're getting very hesitant.
I think for me, I put the pressure on Nunez to lead the line. And to lead the line, you have to do something like Firmino did in his prime for Liverpool, which is to build, be incredibly productive offensively, and score goals. Nunez, in my opinion, has not done any of that. He's only showed up in moments, in very little moments, in my opinion, throughout the entire scope of the season. So that's why I'm very critical on him. But absolutely, I'm still going to give him a chance. I'm just saying he's got a lot of work on. And I think that space between where he's at now and where he needs to be might be a little too big. And I get very scared because we saw something very similar in Timo Werner. A guy who was scoring goals for fun in the Bundesliga with Leipzig. Mm-hmm. Couldn't catch him, they said in German. Chelsea get him for a lot of money, yes, and what happens? Bust.
Yeah.
Pure bust.
Yeah.
And where is he now? Where's he back? He's back in Germany.
He's back in Germany, brother.
So I just get a little scared when it comes to Nunez because he was just as explosive outside of the Prem. Comes to Liverpool, and I just, again, off the ball, I see the same explosiveness. With it, I don't. And so I think that's tough because, for example, like look at Cody Gakpo. When he's on the ball, sure he's not scoring. Sure he's not assisting as much as he probably was at PSV. You see it, though. You see why he's a top player. And you understand, just his first touch.
Yeah.
Exceptional.
Yeah, he can build, bro. Nunez can't buld.
At all.
He struggles so much with like his first touch. It's a heavy fucking touch,
It's
bro.
a heavy touch.
It is. I don't know if we're seeing him. I don't know if we can make the straight comparison 1-1 from him to Firmino and Nunez. I think they play differently. I think that's more.
They do. But
Gakpo's,
I'm talking about output, man. Because at the end of the day, Firmino's going to retire in the next 2 years. Like at the end of the day, Nunez is the heir to Firmino. He has to be the guy who leads the line for Liverpool.
I would say he's the heir to Mane more than Firmino. I think Gakpo's more Firmino.
And okay,
or Jota or Luis Diaz, for example.
Okay, from okay, now we're getting into semantics. I think from a style perspective, yes.
Yeah.
But I think from a striker output perspective, Nunez needs to be the guy who scores the goals.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I just think the work that he has to put in, he's going to have a hell of an offseason.
Yeah, because the height that he has to reach is essentially what Fernando Torres was for Liverpool and what Luis Suarez was for Liverpool.
Yes.
That's what he has to achieve.
Right.
I get it. And he's not there. He's not there yet.
He's not even
He's
close
not
to there, bro.
I don't know if he's that far off. I think he has the potential to be there. So for me, that's enough because I think the difference with Werner, what we saw from him in the Prem, I don't think we saw that potential. I think we saw a dead end once we saw Timo Werner try to perform in the Prem. We saw no real ability to be able to adapt and to, show really good moments or highlights of what could become if he becomes a more consistent player when it comes to scoring goals and assisting. He was having some duds, bro. Where at the very least, Darwin Nunez is showing that he can score. He's in double digits right now in the Prem, I believe. And then he's not scoring a lot in all competitions, but this Liverpool team has also not been that great alongside him either. Right. Likewise, you also have Luis Diaz, who's been sitting on the sidelines as well, who could also be seen as another offensive threat and person that can help alongside Darwin Nunez. I think the responsibility has been a lot bigger this season for Darwin Nunez than it ever was for Sadio Mane or for Roberto Firmino because the surrounding players have not been that great.
That's a good point.
So it's been tough. It's been
very tough.
It's been tough. But I do see the point that, yes, in order for Liverpool to go back to the level that we have been at these past 3-4 years, Nunez will have to become the level of what Fernando Torres was, Sadio Mane at his height, or Luis Suarez, for example, which is a crazy, crazy height. But I just don't think it's fair to gauge it yet based off of the season that Liverpool has had as a whole, the injuries that we have faced, and honestly, what he's done so far, I think, is enough to garner a little bit of belief and faith.
I'll give him a little. But I'm just saying Nunez on the bench against Arsenal in a very big game for Liverpool, not a good look.
Not a good look. Yeah.
But if he can find it within himself, really work this offseason, then you're right. Okay. To make it clear, he has potential. I'm not saying he's a dead end like Werner. I'm just saying I do think he is, in the grand scope of things, I do think he's had a failure of a season.
No.
Because when I just look at those big moments in front of goal, he should be at least finishing most of them.
He should have finished that opportunity against Arsenal, man. He had a one-on-one against Ramsdale.
That was a huge opportunity.
Yeah. This debate will be settled just by following his transfer news. If he ends up being sold by Liverpool, then you're right.
Oh, okay.
I think you're right.
Okay.
If Liverpool sells him, you were right. And if we end up keeping him, assuming Liverpool continues at a very high level, we're not like some mid-table fucking team like this year.
Right.
If he stays at Liverpool and starts putting up those numbers, then I think it'll be proven. At least maybe you get to join my side for that.
Absolutely.
But for now, we're on opposite ends.
Yeah.
And we got a hell of a season awaiting us this upcoming year to see how the hell does this Darwin Nunez project end.
Yeah, and I think another reason why I'm a little, once again, hesitant is because I kind of saw the same thing with Joao Felix. As an Atletico Madrid fan, a guy who was doing really well for Benfica, dominating in the Portuguese league, solid in the Champions League, not as good as Darwin, but Atletico pay a lot of money for him. They pay a lot of money for Felix. And what does he ultimately do? You know, not a lot.
Yeah.
Not a lot. And I will say this: every single season, I was like, "There's something in Felix. There's something in him."
Oh yeah, you told
Every
me that
year.
was a good bargain. You told me that 120 million was a
was a good bargain.
I remember that shit before the pod. I remember that shit.
So I'm coming to you as someone who's already been through it. Because what happened? He's a fucking Chelsea now, and there's a chance he's gonna be there permanently.
I can see that. That's definitely a possibility. I can see it, bro. I can see that path. I'm not oblivious to it. But I'm saying what Nunez has done in his first season, I think has been better than what Joao Felix did in his first season with Atletico Madrid. Look at the numbers, man. Producer, pull up the numbers. Darwin Nunez stats this season.
I just want to look at league.
Okay.
Just domestic league.
Okay,
because I don't even think. I think it's single digits.
Premier League. I think it's double, but I might be wrong.
Liverpool 2022 8 goals.
8-3 in 23 matches. That's a good ratio.
It's a decent ratio.
That's pretty good.
It's decent.
It's not incredible, but that's pretty good, man. 11 goals and assists combined.
It's not the same
That's not that bad. That's 0.5 per game combined. 11 out of 23. It's almost 0.5.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. And he doesn't play that much. And he's been out for a couple times for injuries or banged up. He got banned. He got suspended for like 4 games in the Prem as well.
He did. That's why he's only played 23 instead of 28.
If you throw in the total number of games that Liverpool has played this season, assuming he started each one of those, if it wasn't for injury or suspension,
maybe he could have like 12.
He'd be at 10 at the very least.
Right.
That's not that bad. Pull a Timo Werner, bro. I'm just curious. I'm curious to see how Timo Werner did. There you go. Oh, he did his first year. I hope it's not.
You gotta click Chelsea.
4-1, 6-8.
14.
He had 6-8 in his first. Fuck. He wasn't
that doesn't help.
That doesn't help, bro. Fuck. 35 matches. Damn, they played him a lot.
They played him almost every game.
Jesus Christ. And then after that, 4-1 and 21. What was Felix?
Felix,
I know he's a different player. But
Felix probably wasn't.
Joao? 6-1.
6-1, yeah. No, Felix was
That's bad.
Felix was not productive.
That's
but he's never been productive.
That's damn.
8 is his height for Atleti.
Damn, 8-4. What Nunez is essentially doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
Let's calm down a little bit.
Hey, 8-4 in 24 matches.
Yes, that's basically what he's doing this season. From his first season.
Right.
But what I am curious, just real quick, just random. This is all competitions. I want to see what he's done all. Darwin Nunez, all competitions is what I said.
15 total.
All right, so 14 in all competitions. All right, let's wait and see, man. Let's wait and see.
I definitely see what you're saying. I think I'm coming from a pessimistic point of view, right?
I know.
Right.
But I don't think I'm as delusional my first season with Nunez as you were with your first season with Felix.
Right.
And I think you're coming at me as if he had a Joao Felix type of season his first season.
Yeah, I think
it's been a little bit better. A little bit better.
No, he has. Not even statistically. Not even statistically. He actually has been better than Felix's debut season with Atletico. Right. But I do think it's because, and this could be just a whole thing on its own. I think Felix is kind of like he's a lost player in the modern game.
Last question before we go. This is a fun one. Who's on your Mount Rushmore? You know Mount Rushmore over wherever that is in the U.S. 4 faces that can either define football for you or that you would say are the 4 greatest players of all time. 4 faces. You can decide. If this can be your own personal Mount Rushmore, I can't debate it. I can't change anything for you. It's the 4 players that maybe matter the most to you, maybe inspired you the most, or the 4 players that were the most fun to watch. Who is on your Mount Rushmore? You define it however you like. But tell me who's on it, bro. Because I asked the Give and Go community the other day, and I got some really interesting results. I can reveal mine first if you like.
Yeah, who's yours?
For me, I utilize Mount Rushmore as a way to go about the 4 most era-defining, greatest players that we have seen. For me, Messi is on that Mount Rushmore. Pelé is on Mount Rushmore. Iconic, huge for the game. Messi, we already know everything about him. What do I have to say? Maradona gets on there for me as well. An insane icon of the 80s and 90s. Yeah. Huge for the game in general, for the worldwide attraction toward the sport, and a hell of a character and celebrity, honestly. And what he meant to the game, incredible. And then I think I have to put Cristiano Ronaldo there.
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah. So for me, my Mount Rushmore is Pelé, Maradona, CR7, and Messi. And I feel good about that. I don't feel like there's a flaw there. I feel like those 4 represent the game the best, both in the modern era and in the older era of football. They're all winners. They're all champions.
Yeah.
And they're some of the most skilled players the game has ever seen.
Actually, that's actually the perfect answer.
Right? I think so.
That's the perfect answer, because if you consider it as a monument, a piece of art that you had to show an alien, someone who didn't know what football was, and you're like, just watch these 4 players play football.
For sure.
And you'll understand why it's the most popular sport in the world. Those would be the 4 to choose.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there it is.
You don't think there's a debate for like maybe R9 over CR7?
There's no way, because I feel like at the end of the day...
Ronaldinho maybe?
No, because Messi and Ronaldo...
Darwin Nunez?
Messi and Cristiano are the 2 best players of the last 20 years. And they have defined an era, and they have captured the hearts of billions. You can say the same thing about Pelé in the 60s and 70s in his era, and you can say the same thing about Maradona in the 70s, 80s, 90s in his era. Messi and Ronaldo are just the modern version of that. I think in between them, you had some greats: Zidane, Henry, Ronaldo, Ronaldinho. But were they as big as those 4 that you just mentioned? No, they weren't, because they were big, but these guys are, Mount Rushmore big.
Yes, sir.
So yeah, for me, it definitely those 4. If you're talking about monumental players, it's gotta be those 4. Who else would it really be, bro? Like, really?
Yeah, no, I don't know if there's anyone else. Maybe I want to say like Iniesta or something, but
right, like again, like a legend, bro,
right.
A legend, but not as big as those 4.
I think Ronaldinho has a chance of getting on there. I do think R9 has a chance. I don't think they do, but I think they have a chance. Maybe like a Johan Cruyff, for the sake of old-timing.
Maybe if we asked like a Dutchman, he'd have Cruyff on there.
Yeah, but give me your Mount Rushmore of players that meant the most to you.
Right. If you're talking about founding fathers from like a Soltero perspective,
yes, sir,
who shaped the sport for me,
yes, sir,
it would definitely be Messi and Cristiano.
Oh, shit.
100%. I mean, just seeing those 2 battle since fucking 2009 has been literally defining for my football education, man. Sir. And I think for everybody, that narrative, Messi versus Ronaldo, Barcelona against Real Madrid for a decade was truly eye-catching. And the fact that they're 2 out of the 4 biggest players ever to have played the game, yeah, they're going to be on my list because I've seen them play for so long, dude. So long. A third is going to be Antoine Griezmann for me.
Gotta be.
I've seen that boy play since he was at Real Sociedad. It's one of those things where I just wish we had the podcast 10 years ago. Because I was on Griezmann's hype train before he was even kicking a football.
Yeah.
I just looked at him and was like, this kid's going to be great. It's crazy how actually big he ended up being. Huge. Considering how low of a level he started at.
Yeah.
And I have seen his entire career play out. Yeah. And so that'll be something that I will only ever know. And I'll take it to my grave. So yeah, for that reason, he's on my Mount Rushmore. The 4th, I can't think of one, man.
Chicharito?
Right. I was thinking, like, is it a CONCACAF player?
Pulisic?
Right. Like, is it
big for you?
Like, for example, like Brian Ruiz.
Oh, it's got to be
because
Costa Rican.
Between like 2010 and 2014,
it has to be.
He was one of my favorite players.
Yeah,
like truly. Or is it more like
No. It's definitely Costa Rican, bro.
I think it is because
I didn't think about that, but yes.
Right. I feel like it has to be a Costa Rican player, and my favorite Costa Rican player of all time is Brian Ruiz. So it would just make sense. But I just wonder, is there another player that's just saying like, "Hey, Soltero, like." Put me on that Mount Rushmore. I feel like there is.
There probably is, bro.
And yeah, so I have to really think about that
Shelby.
4th one. Right, but I was gonna say like Carlos Tevez was hella influential for me. Hella influential.
I'm surprised they put both Messi and Ronaldo on there. I thought you would put just Messi. I don't know if you would. I didn't know if I envisioned seeing you put Ronaldo on there as.
Okay.
I mean, you're an Atletico fan, man. Like that.
Yeah.
I thought you had hatred towards that man.
Oh no, I don't like seeing Ronaldo play. I never have. But the amount of times Ronaldo has been in my head, that is enough for me to put him on my Mount Rushmore.
Right.
I've thought about that guy every day for the last 15 years.
Yeah.
I can't say that about any other player realistically other than Messi.
Yeah.
So for that reason, he's got to go out there. But I want to say it's Ruiz simply
It's
because
gotta
of
be
what they
Ruiz. It's
achieved
Ruiz.
and what I had predicted they would achieve going into 2014. It's got to be. But I could see another
It's
player
gotta
being
be.
there.
It's gotta be. It's gotta be. I think that's it. I think that's
That
it.
might
Right
be
there.
it. All right.
We've got some big Europa League matches happening tomorrow. Europa Conference League. Honestly, more excited for that than I was for Champions League, man.
Hell
This
yeah.
game, these games are gonna be fucking lit.
Dude, I'm so excited.
And we're gonna have to check back on that and react to that soon
We have
because
to.
those games are gonna be massive, man.
Yeah.
Before it happens, Bayer Leverkusen is going to mollywop Union Saint Gilloise.
Wait, really?
Is that what it is?
Is that who they're playing?
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah, but they're mollywhopping them, bro. They're running them amok, bro.
Hey, easy.
Oh, dude, they're gonna fucking destroy fucking Saint Gilloise. What?
Yeah.
It's Union. It's something like that.
It is.
Gilloise.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're gonna have a field day, bro. I love it. They just beat Frankfurt 3-1. They're having a great fucking.
Where's the
vibe
match?
right
Is it in Germany or is it in
now. I
Belgium?
want to say it's in Germany to start. I want to say at home. At home.
Okay, then there's a good chance.
Yeah, at home.
There's a decent chance, but I think it'll be tight.
Gilloise ain't showing up, bro. They're not showing up.
They have a really good offense.
And then
I
we
think that means
also
something.
have Feyenoord getting involved too. We have AZ playing tomorrow. Thank you for listening, folks. Make sure to rate us 5 stars on Spotify if you haven't already, and subscribe to our YouTube if you're watching this on YouTube. Until next time, we'll see you guys soon. Peace.